Hi, my name is Melvin Isaac. I'm a BCAP producer for Brooklyn Community Access Television, The Brick House. I'm here today, Thursday, to film a very important, extraordinary artist. I will be going inside. His name is Jean Micheli. And as soon as I get upstairs, I'm going to meet up with a couple of curators, and they're going to be expressing his work. And I got a lot of questions I'm going to be asking them. So come along with me now, and you can see exactly what I'll be about to do.
I'm the former associate curator of exhibitions at the Brooklyn Museum and co-curator of the exhibition Basquiat, The Unknown Notebooks, which is just opening on April 3rd. And I'm here to talk a little bit about some of the works of the show. This exhibition is a really rare opportunity to see 160 pages of Basquiat's handwritten notebooks, handwritten and hand-drawn. So we have, as you can see, we have works framed page by page on the wall. We also have them laid out in cases. And then we have a selection of approximately 30 paintings and drawings that really speak to the notebooks and relate to them and really indicate the importance of writing and poetry and wordplay throughout Basquiat's production. So some of the examples that we have right here behind us give you an idea of the range of the different types of writing that Basquiat would do in his notebooks. And I would maybe begin by saying that Basquiat didn't consider this kind of work writing, he considered it a drawing. You see that he had a very careful, all-capital script that he used in a way almost like calligraphy. He went for very simple, straightforward, high contrast lettering style, unadorned. And sometimes his entries might just be one word on a page, like in this case, pedexing. And that's evidence of his engagement with the city, the street, and the signage of the street that he grew up with in Brooklyn and in Lower Manhattan. So pedexing is also in a way, it's a very good example of wordplay because it refers to the sign that we often see, pedestrian crossings, right? But then we have longer passages that really read like long, beautiful narrative poems, like this book here, Prayer. And a question was asked about really what are the themes contained in the show. So really, this show is about highlighting and foregrounding Basquiat as a writer and thinker. Basquiat is very well known as a figurative painter, often described as a neo-expressionist, part of the early 1980s revival of large-scale figurative painting. But what's on view in this show is a different body of work that's not as often exhibited, and I have to say that most of the works in the show have either never been exhibited before or are rarely exhibited. So a really nice opportunity. But you find works that are conceptual, more minimalist, and as I like to describe it, sometimes his 2 or 3 word phrases have as much expression in them as a very large-scale painting. So he really valued both modes of communicating. We just happen to be highlighting the literary and the poetic and conceptual in this exhibition. I've started to say, what are the themes of the show? Language, most certainly. Another theme of the show that we really touch on is this idea of combining high and low art, of combining fine art and lived experience in the real world. And that comes through in a million ways in the show. In terms of his interest in fine art and great literature, Basquiat actually grew up very well educated and visiting museums in New York City. A junior member of the Brooklyn Museum from a young age, and had a very worldly sense of global culture and global history. And he was also ambitious. He wanted to be famous. He considered himself, worthy of the same kind of attention as any other great artist. So he really worked to not only to bring overlooked or under-recognized African American artists and athletes into the canon of American art, but to assert himself as well as one of the greats. And he did this by incorporating works by Leonardo da Vinci, Gerard Depardieu, Mark Twain, Herman Melville. These are the names that you find repeated, the words you hear sampled in Basquiat's work in this show and really throughout his larger production. So he's associating himself with some of the greatest, and I think it would be gratifying for him to know that he is actually appreciated on that level, that people don't think of him as a passing figure, but a major figure of the late 20th century, and some people say the greatest African American artist ever.
What inspired him to become an artist? Or who?
Well, from a young age, he was an avid drawer. His father would bring him paper from work, and he would spend a lot of time drawing from childhood on. And again, I said his parents took him to museums all over New York City, so he got to see. I think he was probably a really visual person who learned by looking, and absorbed all of that information visually, and I think could therefore picture himself doing something like that too.
Okay, my name is Melvin Eisen. I'm from Brooklyn Community Access Television, Brick House, and I have a show called The Artistic Talent. And I'm sort of like squeezing in onto the interviewer. That's what we was doing with her, to interview her. She already said who she was, announced her name, very professional. That's the curator. With the famous person, I think he was, to me, he was the greatest that I've seen through the documentation of his work.
Jean-Michel?
Jean-Michel. So it inspired me to want to put this person, even though he passed, but it inspired me to want to put this person on my show. So it's a lot of questions I want to ask, but I don't want to get too involved because there's a lot of powerful questions. He always listened to music when he was doing his art. And the back of this piece right here is sort of like a pyramid. Mm-hmm. So what actually type of music influenced him? What kind of music? I know he was speaking of one with bebop or something. So what actually the kind of music that influenced him?
Well, I think he listened to all kinds of music. He certainly loved bebop, jazz, blues, and gospel, any kind of traditional African American music. I think he put it in the category with African American athletes that haven't been a huge contribution to American culture, that hasn't been recognized as it should be, and that he also happened to love. He also listened to the pop music and top 40 and new wave. He had very broad tastes. But this piece, as you said, we have several references to Charlie Parker, who is someone that was a particular favorite subject of Basquiat
Yes,
throughout
yes.
throughout his vast production. So particular recording, Billy's Bounce on Savoy Records, and then down here you have Now's the Time on Savoy Records. And if you're an aficionado of Charlie Parker, you know those were great recordings in the 40s, I think.
Yes, they was.
But he certainly didn't limit himself to any one inspiration. He listened to the radio and everything. TV.
Yeah. I mean, to me, when I was looking at the documentation of him, he's a genius.
He's genius.
I mean, at that young age of 20, before he was a genius. Even though he went to the streets and then he rose from the streets of doing, art, but what I've seen and how he became famous,
well, he knew what he wanted to do, and I think leaving home and having a period of time where he was itinerant, living with friends, sometimes overnight on a bench or whatever, but trying to find a way to be on his own so he could be his own person was necessary for him. I mean, he had maintained his relationship with his family, but he left home at 17.
Yes.
As I've read it, his father didn't want him to go, but he gave him some money to leave with, so, and then when he made it big, it was really important for him for his father to come and see his paintings and be a part of that whole experience. So, there's a lot of mythology around Basquiat that made about his tumultuous life, but actually, if you watch the interview that we have from 1986, he really seems like a very genuine, regular person who then had to grapple with being in the spotlight so much and figuring out how to handle that fame.
Right. And next to the last question, it was he had a good friend that passed away. Can you just elaborate? Because it seemed like that was the first start of his downfall.
Well, so Andy Warhol is considered, one of the major artists of the 20th century, and so by the time that Basquiat had also become very successful, he became friends with Warhol. They developed a collaboration. They would paint together and collaborate on works. And Warhol, being a little bit older, was a bit of a mentor to him. Yeah. So that was a very a positive thing in his life. And I think that when Warhol died, I think that was at the point where he was really feeling a little bit lost in terms of too much fame too quickly, and just unfortunate. The people, a lot of people did love him and support him, but there were other people that didn't understand that he needed a friend necessarily more than a dealer or a collector.
Yeah, it was so sad.
Some terrible loss.
Yeah, it was a big loss that I seen. That when he needed help, he reached out, but it seemed like nobody didn't know what to do. Yeah. He was reaching out. So that was the end. So that was basically next to my last question, but the final question is that why did he leave home? I know that his parents they was loving to him, but something happened to make him want to go to the streets of New York.
I think, if you grew up in middle class Brooklyn, right, and he wasn't, I don't think he was a very conventional student in high school. I think he had some problems not getting into trouble, and he was already doing the street writing that you can observe, right? So a little rebellious and a little seeking adventure, and so when you have that sense of needing to create yourself, sometimes you can't do it in a comfortable bed and under your parents' roof, right? And that's the way I view it. That he went to, and also because Lower Manhattan in the early '80s was like this hotbed of exciting, art and music and rap and hip hop. All these things were happening. Graffiti. That whole culture was just really burgeoning in a way that he wanted to be at the center of. And he, of course, was fascinated with like the blue chip gallery scene too, and wanting to find how he could find his way in there. Can't do that now you can do it from Brooklyn, but
no, that was it. Well, that was my final question, and I want to thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to interview you. And I really forgot your name.
Trisha.
Trisha, right.
And what's your name again?
Melvin.
Melvin, I know, we're all here.
Yeah, my name is Melvin Isaac from Brooklyn Community Access Television Brick House. My show is called The Artistic Talent. I'm here at the Brooklyn Museum, and I'm interviewing one of the curators for
Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Yes. So the question that I'm curious about was this painting right here. And I see a low and a high. And it's an art painting, but the question is, why is it untitled and why is it named Low and High? What's the meaning for that?
Certainly because you see kind of mountain or ice cube coming up, low, high. But many of, I mean, it's very normal that Basquiat wouldn't give a title to work. If he would give a title, he would write it on the back side of the work. As this is a drawing that was glued onto a canvas, you have, of course, a different situation, so you wouldn't know what's on the back side of the drawing if there is a title given or not. But low and high can mean a lot. I mean, what you have in this large-scale drawing, painting, I mean, it's a very painterly drawing, is most of the elements of the time of between 85, 87 combined in just one drawing. It's a little bit like picking his brain when you look at that drawing. So you have all those elements like the member, so the bat actually referring to 83, 82. Then you have the CBS, you have the fragmentation of the body, you have the coin with Thomas Jefferson's land country house. You have the question of death, immortality. You have Now Is the Time, Charlie Parker's. You have what he did in the late paintings, including the hey, 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 like laughing out loud. You have question of the shark. I mean, the snake. It's the fly. I mean, you have all those elements here together, and that makes it such a major piece. It's really a crucial piece.
So what makes this art right here, this whole thing, what makes it art? Tough question, yeah.
No, not at all. I'm just thinking what answer fits best.
Oh, okay.
What makes it art is that what does Basquiat do? He takes from everywhere surrounding him. It might be a coin, it might be out of something out of the fridge, a Hitchcock movie, it might be a religious symbol, it might be the famous jazz musician Charlie Parker. It can be everything, low culture, high culture. Here you have the low high, by the way. And what he does is he brings it all together, like in a copy-paste way we use nowadays in the internet, so a post-internet society. And what he does by that, he opens up for us new thinking spaces, new ideas. He brings together, like Moby Dick and the whiteness of the whale, copyright. With the whiteness of the whale, he already questions the race issue. With so Moby Dick suddenly becomes actually much more than Moby Dick. Moby Dick is suddenly a race issue, and there is so much to read in that work. So you can kind of pick out whatever, and I will not perhaps have the answer because there's so much going on. But there is a lot of things that bring new meaning to words, new meaning to ideas, concepts.
So that's what makes it art. This piece right here.
Yes. And by the way, it has a great, I like the composition of it. It's balanced. I mean, if you analyze it like from an art historical view, you have the hay up there, you have the bed here, but the bed is red here, the black one up there, but you have a kind of balance by also having the green plane up there. So it is, it's a balanced composition. So it's not just, that is also what makes it art. Good art.
That did.
For that.
For now. For that particular one.
But he was a breakthrough in the sense that he was the first pop star in the arts as the first African American at that time. But you're totally right that it's anyhow with artists. You cannot say Picasso is more important than Munch, or Munch is more important than Basquiat or Warhol, and he was like Michael Jackson in pop music, just very important. Also to open up for the next generations, but it doesn't mean that he's more important than the other ones.
When you gonna write your book?
Thank you.
Yeah. That's the understanding.
Yeah, got a pretty good understanding now. Yeah, definitely.
You gave me a bit
And we cleared that up because we didn't want to leave without that. So what I want to do now, I want to take this from you.
That beautiful microphone.
Yes,
I wanted to keep
I know. You walked away with that, yeah. So what I want to do, I want to start walking around, and I want to actually take filming of the rest of his work. So that way, it's like a B-roll, so that's where everybody could see it on, that's looking at the air show. And then, because y'all said what you had to say, and we had other people. Unless somebody else want to, I like to have audience, but it seems like everybody run from, they don't want to be on the camera. You can say something, you ain't got to be on the camera. But
you have a beautiful audience over there.
Yeah, she doesn't want to say it, she doesn't look. And I'm not going to say nothing. I don't want nobody to see me on no camera. But that's okay too, So that's what I want to do now. So I really appreciate your time.
It was a pleasure.
And your education on what we was trying to get to, what makes this art, this particular piece, and you answer it to the best of your knowledge. And so that's what